I have very little to say today. I'm happy that so many of you have joined this meeting. I'm looking forward to an exciting meeting. I think all of us like to travel. We all like to improve the use of an atlas. So I'm looking forward to an exciting presentation today. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Mike. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Eckhart. Let me just share my screen. I have a very small number of announcements, as usual, before the meeting. Most importantly, we're heading towards the midway point of our fantastic 2025 class season. And Sheeta is here this Saturday and talking about Watch OS 11 and iOS 18. And I think I mentioned this last week, but Sheeta was entirely responsible for my purchase of an Apple Watch because I'd never paid much attention until I attended her class same time last year. So thanks for that, Sheeta. Please don't put me in a position where I feel I need to spend any more money this year. But I look forward very much to your class. So if you already have a watch, there's so much new stuff in the latest operating system. So well worth coming along on Saturday to learn more about it. Today's meeting is with Mike. I know he's here because I saw you. Hello, Mike. And with that, I'm just going to stop my share and pass the meeting over to Sheeta to talk about questions. All yours. Thank you.
Hold on. Mike somehow lost his connection.
Oh,
and he is texting me.
Okay. Hello.
Is it back?
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
My network connection disappeared on me. So
Okay. Oh, well, welcome back.
well, thank you.
All right. So in addition to the welcoming Mike back, Mike did a maps presentation for us last year. And there was so much good information and so many questions and so much interaction that he actually didn't get a chance to go through all of it. So I asked him to come back, finish up what he didn't do. But now that there's also new stuff, we get new stuff there. So with that, we're going to hand it over to Mike Matthews, and we're looking forward to a great presentation. Mike, how do you want to handle questions?
Any way you like as we go is
Okay.
fine. Whatever you want to do is good.
All right. All right. You heard the man. So everyone, get your questions ready. Yes, I'll put that in the chat, Hope, and let's hand it over to Mike.
Okay. Let me share my screen here briefly. There we go. So yes, I was reviewing the presentation from last time, and so some of this will be repeat material, but some of it will be new. There weren't a lot of things that were added to the Maps app in the latest version of iOS and iPadOS, but we'll make sure that we get those covered in any event. So Maps, this is me. My name is Mike. Most of you know me. Thanks for having me back again. It's always a pleasure to present to this group. Get lots of good questions and lots of good comments. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning. When the iPhone first shipped, there was a Maps app on it, and it looked like this. It was actually developed by Apple's engineers working with Google. It was actually Google Maps as an app on the phone. And as time went by, Apple and Google had their differences about which direction the Maps app should go. Apple, as you guys probably know, likes to own and control a lot of their own technologies. In any event, there was a split. Google Maps went their way, and Apple Maps went their way. And when Apple Maps was first introduced, it was not a good product. It was very, 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 very bumpy. Big heads rolled at Apple over this, as it turned out. But when you would use Apple Maps in the very early days to look at satellite views of freeways, you would see things like this, where the freeway just goes straight up into a wall. Or you'd see things like this. So I'm kind of actually happy to report that Apple Maps is much, much improved. In addition to having a fresh new icon, it's quite good. I live in California. I live within an hour of Apple's campus in Cupertino. And typically when Apple makes improvements to the Maps app, they start in California and kind of fan out a little bit. So living in the shadow of the big spaceship actually has some distinct advantages. when Apple added things like bike routes and things to the Maps app a few years ago, they started in California, have kind of fanned out around the globe. So if you're using, there are many apps you can choose from to use Maps. I'm going to use Apple Maps here for this class. It's not a bad idea to have more than one Maps app on your device, just in case one of them gets something wrong, you've got something else to fall back on. But Apple Maps these days is actually quite good. And if you haven't taken a look at it with any depth, it might be worth your time to do that. So we're going to start in the Settings app. Some of the settings have been revised and improved a little bit compared to past years. And in fact, the location of the settings themselves has been changed in iOS 18. I'm going to use a phone to demonstrate. You'll see somewhere things on the iPad if you choose to use that. But to access the map settings now, really almost any app on your device, you're going to tap the Settings app. And at the very bottom of the screen, you're going to scroll all the way down until you see an entry for Apps. And tapping that Apps button now in iOS 18 gives you an alphabetical list of every app on your phone. Makes it much easier to find things. So I'm going to stop the slideshow and bring my phone up on the screen and just do the very same thing. So we're just going to grab my phone. And there we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go ahead and tap Settings. Settings. It's early here in California.
Okay.
Scroll all the way to the bottom and find Apps. And here's our alphabetical list. And you can use the little index column of letters on the right to jump right down to the M's if you have exceptional touch skills. And then tap Maps. And this is what you should see. So we're going to run through these as quickly as we can so we can get to the meat of the order here. But this first block of choices allowing Maps to access certain things. The first one up here is location. This one's pretty important, as you might imagine. If you tap location, you'll see kind of a standard set of options that most apps provide when allowing the app to access your location. Again, this is allowing the app to access your location. It does not mean that you're allowing anybody to access your location. You're allowing the app on your device to access your location. And for Maps, it's probably pretty important that the app knows where you are if you're going to ever try to get directions. So typically, you should be setting your phone to allow location access either while using the app or while using the app or widgets. As you guys all know, widgets are little small peeks into an app that can appear in the Today view or on a home screen. You can use that to launch the Maps app or to access things in Maps. I don't typically use widgets when using the Maps app, but I have this location access set to allow access to my location when I'm using the Maps app or when I'm using a Maps widget. And there's an explanation here about why the app needs your location. Get directions is one of the big ones here, okay? In addition, for most of these apps that ask for your location, there's another switch that's optional. It's called Precise Location. This is good to turn on for the Maps app. If you turn this off, then the phone will provide a rough estimate of your location to an app that asks for it. But with Maps, you kind of want to know exactly where you are when you start your directions. So I would leave Precise Location turned on for the Maps app. Okay. All right, let's tap the Maps button to go back one screen. My phone is capable of running Apple Intelligence, so I have an Apple Intelligence and Siri option here. This used to be called Siri and Search in previous versions of the OS, and it might even still be called that if your phone is running iOS 18 and does not have Apple Intelligence capabilities. So typically with these Apple Intelligence and Siri and Search options, there's a bunch of switches in here that you're probably fine just leaving these on. This allows Siri to learn from how you use the app, make suggestions along the way, show suggestions on the home screen, etc. Those are all fine, I think. And in search, same idea. If you wanted to search for a particular location using the search facility that's built into the phone, you'll see the app show up if you search for maps. You'll see content show up if you search for a particular address. So leaving these turned on also is going to be helpful to you, I think. So we'll hit maps to go back again. Next up is notifications. And I have this turned on. The notifications app, or the Maps app, unlike a lot of other apps on your phone, is not going to give you a lot of notifications. In fact, it's probably only going to give you notifications while you're doing directions, or when you have an event in your calendar with a location associated with it. You can set up your device so that it can notify you when it's time to leave. And it will take into account things like where you're located and what the traffic is like. So those sorts of notifications I found to be pretty helpful. So you can set the notifications up any way you like. Just know that you're probably not going to get overwhelmed with notifications from the Maps app. So if your practice is typically to not have apps notify you of things, you might want to think about letting the Maps app do it for you. There's also options down here to show notifications while you're in CarPlay. If you have CarPlay in your car and you use the Maps app there, that's a pretty handy thing. And I'm not going to get too deep into this other stuff. They're all fairly self-explanatory, I think, if you're at all familiar with notifications with any other app on your phone. Okay, so hit the Maps app, the Maps button to go back. Background app refresh allows your Maps app to refresh its information in the background even while you are not using it as the frontmost application. This comes with a slight hit to battery life, probably, but I've had this switch turned on for practically every app on my phone since I've had the phone and since this option has been available, and I have not really noticed a huge battery hit overall. So this switch merely allows your phone to update its information in the background so that when you switch to the app, it doesn't have to take additional time to update itself. It's really kind of a convenience thing. I don't think there's a great harm in leaving it on either. And the last switch in this group is cellular data. If you have a phone and you're trying to use the Maps app while you're out and about, chances are you're not connected to Wi-Fi. And so, yes, you want the Maps app to be able to access cellular data. Now, if you travel overseas or something and you're on a limited data plan, then maybe you'd like to not have the Maps app use cellular data quite so much. There's other workarounds to that, like downloading maps and storing them on your device that we'll talk about. But typically speaking, if you're home, around and about, leaving cellular data on is a good idea. Okay, next up are a new set of settings here for offline maps. Sometimes it's helpful, particularly if you're traveling maybe overseas, to download a map to your phone so that the phone does not need to access the internet constantly to update itself. So that's the plus side, right? You download the map in advance, it's on your device. You don't have to rely on having an internet connection to use a map. The downside is if you are interested in like current traffic, you're not going to get that if you're not connected to the internet to get that info in real time. But be that as it may, if you choose to use offline maps, you have a choice here for when you download these maps to download them only over Wi-Fi or to allow the app to download over Wi-Fi or cellular. Again, Wi-Fi is typically going to be maybe a little bit faster. It's probably going to be cheaper. But there may be times when you actually do need to download a map and you do need cellular to do so. You can choose to do that over Wi-Fi or cellular, your choice. You can allow the maps to periodically keep them updated.